You're listening to The Drive and Kick.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of The Drive and Kick, where Joe and I are back from another small sabbatical, and so much has happened since last time we hopped on the pod together. Joe, how you doing?
I'm good, Kev. I don't know if you've heard, but your Philadelphia Eagles are going to the Super Bowl. Feeling good about that. The Sixers suck a lot less. Feel good about that. A lot to feel good about. So I'm excited to get into the pods. It's been too long.
It's been way too long, and I just got to say, I mentioned it in passing a few days ago, but it's terrible, awful, really bad news. I am rooting for the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and I kind of hate myself for it. But what I've come to realize is it's not that I hate Philly sports. I just hate the Sixers. That's what it is.
You're like the rest of the NBA. The NBA they hate the process. They hate the Sixers.
If only you guys were a huge market like Milwaukee, you guys would have the respect that you deserve. But I'm
So
sure we'll cover that.
what makes you root for the Eagles here? Do you dislike the Chiefs that much, or you just
I
want me to
dislike
you
the
want me to be
Chiefs.
happy?
I would like you to be happy. I think Philly sports are really endearing outside of Sixers. That's kind of the way I look at it.
But Kevin,
Um,
I'm curious. The Sixers are the biggest losers of all the Philly sports teams. Why them?
because it's those listen, when the Sixers were kind of where like the Phillies were, where it's like there's this ragtag group that's kind of overachieving. Oh, that's fun. The issue is that all the Sixers fans said, we are the best team in the NBA. We are going to win the championship, and then became annoying. That's the issue. I had no problem with the Sixers 10 years ago. I had no problem.
I will say though, Kevin, I do think that people have stopped saying that over the last couple of years because we've all become sad, defeated, head in our hands on the curb next to a trash
Joe,
can.
you and I sat here in our very first episode and picked the Sixers to win the NBA
And I
Finals.
hated myself for it, Kevin. Okay, look, people are less hopeful now, at least.
That's fair. That is definitely fair.
But we
Uh,
should get into a real winner. We need to talk about the Wizards. A lot has happened in Wizards land.
so much has happened since the last podcast we got together. Like, we have the longest winning streak in the NBA right now. Last time we got together, we were like, I think we were the 12th seed and kind of floundering. And I mean, when I say kinda, I mean really floundering.
They
And
had lost
since
like
then,
10 of 12 games or something at that point.
yeah, we
Yeah.
lost. I don't even think it was that. I think it was like 11 of 12. We just absolutely bottomed out. And then, of course, in our last 10 games, we're 7-3 with that 6-game winning streak. And we're all the way up to the 9th seed again, recently hopping over the Pacers. Shout out Danny. Um, but, one of the biggest things to happen in Wizards world recently is the Rui Hachimura trade. And I'm someone that has been a big Rui Hachimura fan, as I believe I mentioned on this pod a couple times since he was at Gonzaga. I was big on him in the draft that year. I was terrified that the Wizards were going to pull a Wizards move and draft Cam Reddish, who I was very low on at Duke. And we didn't. I thought we made the right decision for once. And looking back at it, sure, we should have taken Tyler Hero, but we couldn't have predicted that. I thought Rui was a good pick. I thought Rui, especially his rookie year, really showed some incredible flashes. He led rookies in rebounding. I remember he had a big 30-point game. I think against the Lakers. I have to double check that. And then he took a knee to the groin and was out for months. And that kind of derailed. That was like the beginning of like that basically describes his time on the Wizards, having these brilliant flashes and then something derails everything. And so for the listeners that don't know, Rui was recently traded to the Los Angeles Lakers for Kendrick Nunn and 3 second-round picks. Yes, 3 second-round picks. Which I personally feel like just was not very much. What was your initial gut reaction to that trade, Joe?
For me, it was hard because honestly, because Rui's been hurt so frequently, and the amount that I watched the Wizards just from their lack of exposure and lack of games on networks, I haven't watched a lot of him. So like when I first saw the trade, in my mind, I was like, okay, I guess this kind of makes sense. Like, what I know of Rui is like, what I think about him most is that like he's one of the worst defenders I've ever seen in the NBA. So like I never been a Rui guy, but I know you like you've always been a bit of a believer. Like I don't think the trade is as bad as you imagine it. It's not like they sold to get off of him. Like,
I mean, that is what they did though. We basically, I think we decided that we didn't want to give him an extension. I don't know how much he was looking for, but we didn't want to give him an extension. And so we sold him to the Lakers before having to do that. And in my opinion, we pretty much sold at his lowest value. His value's been kind of ticking down in the last few seasons because he had that weird mental issue last year where he sat out most of the season, and then he was dealing with issues this year. And I just feel like we didn't give him a fair shake by getting all these players and putting like at his position who deserve to play more than him. Like I'm not going to pretend like he's anywhere near as good as Kuzma, but we bring people in like Kuzma who take all of his time. Kristaps Porzingis, who and Gafford, who now share the court together. And then we kind of go, well, why isn't Rui living up to his, potential? And it's because we couldn't really find like a spot to put him. And what I will say is during the Westbrook season, which is Rui's best season, he looked very good. And the one thing I'll push back on during that season, pretty good on ball defender. I remember very vividly him locking Kawhi up and holding Kawhi to 7 points on like 1 for 7 shooting in the second half of a Clippers game that Russell Westbrook almost lost for us. However, worst help defender in the NBA, I think, out of all the players. He like the biggest issue with Rui is he had no ability to focus. No ability. So that was my issue was not that we traded him. My issue is I just feel like we chose a terrible time to move him because he cannot have been asking for very much. And I would have rather us sold on a big play, like a good player like Kuzma, and gotten some stuff back rather than, a few seconds and Kendrick Nunn in a position where for once in our life, we're deep at point guard. We're honestly a little bit too deep, which has never happened for me as a Wizards fan. So it's been weird.
I think the trade could have been worse though. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Jahlil Okafor was terrible for the Sixers, but like the Sixers, like you gotta talk about trading a guy at his lowest. The Sixers traded Okafor back in like 2017 they traded Okafor, Stauskas, and they sent a second round pick that became Nick Claxton to the Nets for journeyman Trevor Booker. Like they definitely sold a bit low on Hachimura, but I don't think it was like a disaster trade. Like I understand your frustrations, but I think like I don't know, and they didn't want to pay him. Like I think the trade is bad, but not like it's It could have been worse, Kev.
Listen, it's not gonna derail our franchise because we don't have rails anyway. We're going nowhere. But I will say, since he went to the Lakers, I am happy for Rui because he's showing flashes. He's putting up 13 and 6, 52% shooting. I reached out to friend of the pod and local Lakers friend, our fan friend, Tamir, just to get his thoughts on Rui and give me a little quote. And he said that he's been pleasantly surprised with Rui. He didn't have the highest expectations, but he's been solid defensively and aggressive with the basketball, which is just what the Lakers needed. So
He hasn't been solid defensively. I disagree.
You disagree?
I disagree.
That's okay.
That guy, like, he's like a horse wearing blinders. He can't see out, like, he can't see this he doesn't have peripheral vision. I've never seen anything like it.
If someone cuts back door, he has no idea they even he just assumes they're still there.
He's also not, I take it back though, he's not the worst defender in the league. The worst defender in the league currently plays for the Philadelphia 76ers, and it is he who shall not be named, Montrezl Harrell.
I thought you were
Kevin,
going
I
to
have
say
a question. So what's that, Kev?
I thought you were going to say Tyrese Maxey.
Oh, he's God.
He's not great, but it's okay.
Maxey's actually, I feel like he's regressed as a defender. But anyway, we're staying on the Wizards here.
Yeah.
Do you think that, like, that's it? Are they going to make it? Are they going to trade Kuzma? Like, is the Hachimura trade the only thing Washington's doing?
Yeah, I legitimately think that the Wizards are no longer. Like, I think that's it. I think that's the last move we're gonna do. I sent you that one Washington Post article the other day where it's the Washington Wizards are not interested in blowing up their roster and would like to keep their big three. How many of our big three do you think are going to make the All-Star game this year, Yams?
I mean, they already announced the roster. None of them.
like how many people would have to get hurt before any of the Wizards make the team? Like,
I would say, so the reserves in the East are Adebayo, Jaylen Brown, DeRozan, Embiid, Halliburton, Drew Holiday, and Julius Randle. So you would probably need. Who do you think the first to make it from the Wizards would be? Porzingis?
I think it would have to be Porzingis at this point. I think he's been our best player this season when you look at what he's done, both offensively and defensively, and the fact that, Beal has been hurt. But I will say Kuzma's had a pretty good season.
I feel like you would need about 3 players to get hurt to get your top guy.
And that's just like, I mean, I guess nothing is impossible now in the NBA because people seem to get hurt all the time. But it's just like this just is flashes of when Ted Leonsis was calling John Wall, Jordan Crawford, and Andre Blatch our new big three. It's the same thing. We have these guys that, are good players. They're all good players. But let's not pretend like any of them are going to make the Hall of Fame.
I think that this year, particularly because the NBA is so open, you would find someone who could just be stupid enough to really overspend on Kuzma. Like, there's someone out there who would give a 2019 or whatever it was, 2018 Tobias-esque package, I think, for Kuzma. Because Kuzma's basically a better Tobias. Like, I feel like you could definitely get, like,
I mean, he's like Toby if Toby could also pass.
Yeah.
He averages like 5 assists a game. He's a good passer.
I agree, and I don't want to have any Tobias. This is a pro Tobias podcast, by the way. He's having such a nice season, but yeah, like, you could totally get. I mean, what do you think you can get? At least one. You can get a first round pick for Kuzma.
I think we could get a first round pick and like some young, not like star talent. We're not getting Josh Giddey for Kyle Kuzma.
Like, that you get like a first round pick in Bones Highland.
I would totally take it. Like the Bones Highland package that they're floating around right now for Jay Crowder. Like I think, obviously Kuzma is better than Jay Crowder, but like I think that we could figure out a way to get some of those Denver picks and Bones Highland, send Kuzma there, give Jokic some more help, and bring me all the picks and the losses. But we're never going to do it because Ted Leonsis refuses to lose. And speaking of refusing to lose, nobody, and I mean nobody, beats the Wizards at home, or I should say the Wizards away 24 years in a row. That's right. You heard correctly. The Wizards have finally beaten the San Antonio Spurs on the San Antonio Spurs home court for the first time since the year 1999. So in a season of mediocrity, this has to be one of our highest points.
That's big. That's big for you. Speaking of big, did they run I am always fascinated when the Wizards run their little twin tower lineup. Did they run Gafford Porzingis in that game? I love when they run that.
Like, it's one of these things that I got to give Coach Wes Unseld Jr. credit for, because I don't think I would never consider doing that, and it's really worked. The amount of rim protection that we have on the court at that time with those two is just next level. They have a decent high-low thing going on, but I was talking about this with my dad, who the best Wizards shot blockers of all time are, and you got like Manute Bol, who like wasn't good, but he was so tall, and you got George Mirasan, who wasn't good, but he was so tall. Easily in the top four are Gafford and Kristaps Porzingis. And if we had anyone that could protect the paint like that on those on that 2017 Wizards team that lost to the Celtics in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, we would have ended our conference finals drought. I firmly believe that.
You're one Gafford away.
We were one Gafford or one of our 4 backup point guards away from moving on to the conference finals.
So what are you seeing from the Gafford resurgence? Because you were so low on Gafford at the start of the year.
Yeah, it's one of those. He's a weird player where he has so many tools. He's incredibly long. He's a freak athlete, one of the most athletic big men in the entire NBA. He can block shots, but he's another guy that just his focus seems to wax and wane. So, and nowhere is that more apparent than when it comes to either A, fouling 3-pointers, B, moving screens, which I haven't been able to find the who leads the league in moving screens stat, but he has to be up there. He gets at least 2 moving screens every game. And C, he's so bad at rebounding. But every once in a while, he'll put these games together. Well, he'll grab 12 boards. And when he grabs 12 boards, at least 4 or 5 of them are offensive. And he's a complete menace. So if we could just focus, if we could slowly slip Adderall into his water bottle before games, he would be a fantastic player.
Yeah, I think I like Gafford. I think he's like I don't know. I have been suffering through poor backup centers for so long that I see a guy who could rim run a bit and defend, who's long and athletic. I'm like, I like that guy. I don't know. Gafford, yeah, I think he's just like, I don't know. I think it's one of those players where maybe he's not in the right situation. Like, I don't know. I could see him. I think Gafford's pretty good. It's good to see that. I've always been a fan of his. He's just kind of got some dog in him too that I appreciate. Mm-hmm. Do they run any kind of pick and rolls with him? Let him do some rim running?
For sure. And that's where he's at. I mean, that's where he's at his best by far. He shoots 75% from the field because he's just dunking everything. And I mean everything. If he gets close to the hoop, there's no one in the league that can keep him from dunking because he has such a freaking quick jump and he's so long that it's unstoppable. But when you think, wow, this guy is so athletic and wow, this guy is so long, you think, oh, that means he's probably also a really good rebounder. How many rebounds do you think Gafford averages a game?
How many minutes does he play? Like 18, 70 minutes?
He plays 18 minutes,
7 rebounds?
5 rebounds. He averages 5 rebounds a game. He's just not a good rebounder. He just can't, he has no ability to focus in that capacity. And his rebound percentage is like 16%. That's just not that high.
Yeah, that's rough. Embiid's also a pretty bad rebounder for how being a massive man. So I think, well, Embiid's rebounding, a lot of it is effort. So
yeah, but even still, I mean, Embiid, how many rebounds is Embiid averaging?
I mean, he averages like 10, but Embiid plays like 38 minutes a game.
It's fair. You make a good point.
So do you got anything else on the Wizards? What are your vibes halfway through the year? What think you're destined for playing?
My vibe is exactly what it's been. It's for a brief point in time, I was like, oh, maybe we're kind of garbage and we're gonna get like the 5th pick and like this could be sweet. But no, because we're actually like our roster construction is not terrible, it's just not good. We're right where we are every year. And you know what? At least the playing game is gonna be a fun time. So can't wait.
Well, we are recording this on Groundhog Day, February 2nd, by the way. So it is just Groundhog Day for you, Kev.
It is Groundhog Day. That is an excellent observation, Joe. And man, it has been Groundhog Day as a Wizards fan for 5 years now. Just about.
Well, speaking of Groundhog Day and a team looking good and then probably just doing the same thing as every year, do you want to talk little Sixers?
I would love to talk about the Sixers because, man, have they been hot. And I know you've been itching to tell the people how you feel.
You know, as you know, like the highs are too high and the lows are too low with me. Over the Sixers, like, over their like crazy hot streak, like I had some like pretty great moments. It's like beating Denver, like Embiid putting up like dropping 47 and like PJ Tucker clamping down Jokic, like that had me feeling so good. Like winning all those games, like 5 straight games on the road out west was awesome. I feel overall like I definitely feel better than I did. I mean, the start of the year was pretty bad, and there have been a lot of positives. So, you know, first, it seems like Embiid and Harden have kind of figured out how to play with each other. Like Embiid doesn't like, I don't know why he doesn't like to do it, but he doesn't really like to run the pick and roll. And that's why like at the start of the year, it was like just like annoying back and forth with him and Harden. Like whose turn is it to ISO? Like does Embiid want to bang around the post for 20 seconds? Does Harden want to dribble at the key for 20 seconds and step back? Like they've figured out, like they've decided, like, you know what? We're gonna like run the pick and roll, and then we're gonna drink James Harden wine after, and it's gonna be great. And it is like when it's pretty unstoppable. Like, and Harden has a way of like getting Embiid the ball at the perfect time. Like when he gets it to him at the nail, like there's really not much defenders can do because he's either just gonna pull up for that little mid-range jumper at the nail that he makes like 85% of the time, or if he has a small guy one-on-one, he's just gonna like bully him.
Yeah, and one of the crazy things about this Sixers team is like they do not miss free throws. They don't miss free throws. So it's like you, at least in when it comes to their best, 5 players. So even when they get a lead, in theory, because we've seen them blow a few ones, but in theory, they should be able to put teams away because they can slow the pace, they can bang it down low. Lord knows the foul merchants can get theirs, and they can build on those things. It's one of the things that makes Embiid as unstoppable as he is. He's like an 88% free throw shooter. It's nuts.
So I'm gonna continue with the good things. So that's good. Like Embiid Harden pick and roll has been just like a total joy to watch. It's the most basic basketball play that like I'm like, why haven't you done this before? And also, with Harden, he's shown a bit of an ability to like take guys off the dribble a little bit better than he has in the past. He's still a bit slow, but like he's able to get to the rim a bit. What really has been helpful for him is that he's shooting. I have to like check out the exact stats of like other seasons, but his 3-point shooting is like the best it's been in like 10 years.
He's shooting 39%.
Shooting 39%. He's shooting like over 7 threes a game.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I think he's able to get to the rim is like guys are actually playing him on like his step back and like for the three. So like that's kind of how he's able to beat guys off the dribble a little bit now. So I think we're seeing a bit of a James Harden shooting renaissance here, which has been very nice, and it's kind of been like unlocking other aspects of his game because defenders aren't like, they know it's not 2016, but they're playing, they're respecting Harden like he's Harden, and it's really unlocked a lot of stuff. Like D'Anthony Melton has an open shot literally every time he touches the ball. Tobias Harris is open literally every time he touches the ball. So that kind of has opened up so much for the Sixers offense, and that's another good thing. I don't know if you have any Harden thoughts, Kev, but I don't want
Well,
to.
so I was just looking up his Harden step back 3-point percentage, which is 34%, which people might think like, oh, that's not great. That's below average. For a step back jumper, if you're shooting 34% on a step back three, like that's a ton, because that is creating a shot from nothing. That is a guy's in your face, and you're able to just create that separation and score. And that's basically the equivalent of shooting, 50% on twos. So that's I mean, he definitely has that still. And Harden to me has always been one of those guys that I think even when us as fans look at him and go, he sure is slopping it up recently, I think NBA players respect to like the next level. So they're always going to be kind of expecting that star power that he's had over the last however many years.
Yeah. Look, and it's made the rest of the Sixers so much better. I mean, Tobias, I've become so pro Tobias. Like he's done everything you need him to do. Like when they need him just to stand in the court and catch and shoot threes, he does it. Like when they need him to do Toby time, to like do 2004 Carmelo and like dribble guys and like back a guy down for 15 seconds and shoot the little turnaround mid range, like he's been doing that. Like and Tobias defensively has been awesome. Like active hands. He's guarding like pretty much 1 through 4. He switches, like just defensively. He's become like, when he came to Philly, he was a below average defender. Like I was pretty low on his ability to defend, but I think Tobias has been such an awesome defender, and he's, I don't know, I've enjoyed watching Tobias. He's really I'm a Toby guy now, man. I don't know. He does disappear, but like he kind of holds them together. Like this team, like I don't know, he's just so consistently the same. And I think he's just had a really nice and like kind of underrated season. I don't know if you're probably gonna call me Invisible Man, but
listen, it's been well documented that I'm not a big Tobias Harris fan. Obviously, that stems a lot from his contract. Obviously, that stems a lot from him just kind of disappearing. But Tobias Harris is not a bad player. Tobias Harris is like, he's been a good player for the last since 28. When did he go to the Sixers? 2018.
It was 2018, 2019, that season.
Yeah. Like the season before that, when he was on the Clippers, he was like a good player. Obviously he's not gonna have the ball in his hands as much now. And when he does, sometimes he can be prone to the 2004 Carmelo, as you put it. But he's not a bad player. I'm not a big Toby guy.
Yeah,
Still,
well documented. I got a couple
hold
more
on,
good. I got a couple more good Sixers things that I've seen
please.
over their hot stretch. D'Anthony Melton is just a joy to watch play basketball. Like, I knew he was going to be good, but I think D'Anthony Melton, like, if you need someone on the Sixers to get a rebound, I think he's their best true rebounder. Like, he's a guard, but he plays so long. Like, he's one of the league leaders in steals. His hands are on everything defensively. He's turned himself into, I think, like, playing with Harden and playing with Embiid. Like I said, he's literally wide open. Like, it's social distancing with him at all times. Like, he's turned himself into such a nice catch and shoot player. Like, I mean, what is he shooting from three this season? Like, he's shooting
39%,
three
six
on
attempts.
6 attempts a game. Like, he's become it. And when he was in Memphis, like, you would not think that he would be a catch and shoot guy. Like, the shot was one thing you questioned there. And he's become just reliable, like, weird hybrid guard and that's why he starts, because defensively they need him, because, like, you can't start a backcourt of Harden, Maxey and expect to defend anyone. So honestly, like, good on Doc, like, of doing this. What are you gonna say, Kevin?
This just makes me think of back in the beginning of the season when we were kind of talking about, can the Sixers play Harden and Maxey at the same time? And we kind of came to the conclusion, like, do you really even need point of attack defenders? And we have since learned, yes, you do. We were incorrect on that one. And that's where Melton comes in. And I was also looking it up. Melton has a near identical defensive rebound percentage as Rui Hachimura, which means he goes after the glass, goes after the ball in the glass decently hard, considering he's a guard.
He's an awesome rebounder, like, and he's so athletic.
He's so long.
Yeah, he's so long, like, and I think that, like, I think Maxey is awesome, and he's not a six man for his career, but for this team and what they need from him, like, this is a perfect role for him. Like, let him come in and just get let him be ball dominant, let him run around, like, and I think, like, as long as he's bought in and he's happy and it seems like he's fine, like, this is like a perfect, bringing him off the bench is like, it really gives them a spark in times where they usually start to fade. And he's a player who needs the ball in his hands. He's a rhythm player, and I've really liked Shake Milton has just become just such a do anything you need kind of player that, like, running like a Maxey Milton second unit has been great. And Maxey a lot of times too will finish the game with the starters, like, but
Maxey on the second unit, one of the things I like is it gives them a different look where they can play with a little bit of pace. And like they like to get him out a little bit in comparison to some of the other guys.
Yeah,
but sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, I think it's worked out well, and it's like, it's allowed, like you said, it gives them a second look. Overall, so all of that plus Embiid playing, just having Embiid's having another historic season. I mean, Embiid, he's shooting over 50%. He's averaging like 33.5, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, 2 blocks. Like, just another awesome season. Like, at some point it's like, I feel like I take it for granted. Like, he's awesome. So those are all my good things. I don't know if you want to say anything else good, because I can share my concerns then.
I want to share one thing, and it's a half-baked thing that I've been kind of teasing for a while, but I just want to let the listeners know that I am workshopping my Tyrese Maxey is Colin Sexton with better PR take. And it's not fully formed yet, so I can't really go in, but I do want to get it out there. Really want to let the people know that I am thinking about it, and I am looking to expose it. So that's all.
What I'll say is I think the shot for Maxey is what differentiates him from a player like Sexton. Like I feel like Maxey's had a bad 3-point shooting season, and he's still shooting 39% from three. Like the shot is legit for Maxey. Yeah, but he can't guard his soul. Oh my God. Like he just gets lost. Like it's a lot of it, I think, is just communication issues. Like similar to Hachimura. Like he just he loses guys, he gets lost. Him and Harden end up like yelling at each other over like a wide open layup. It's never a good scene, but I don't know. Look, here's the thing, Kev. At the beginning of the season, I was like, this team is not it. Like they torture me. They make me want to like punch myself every minute. And it's not the case anymore. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I could see them making an Eastern Conference Finals run. I could see them, clicking and making a run of the finals. I could see it, but I could see it now. I think it's possible now. Before I thought it was impossible. I do think it's possible, but I do have concerns that make me hesitant in being all in.
Like what?
So every time, Kevin, every time an opposing team, and it happens almost every game, Sixers are running pick and roll. It looks great. They're getting whatever they want. Other team calls timeout. And then they come out of the timeout. The other team goes zone. The Sixers are like, what is this? I've never seen this before. Is this basketball? It's like they have never seen zone every time they play zone. And I've never seen anything like it. Like some team goes zone against them at least once a game. And it's truly like they're looking at a foreign language that they've never seen in their life. Like it's like they're looking at like a Star Wars made up language. Be like, I don't even recognize this as being like of this earth. They are so bad at the zone. And in the playoffs, people are just gonna run zone against them. And like,
oh yeah,
you really can't run pick and roll when you're playing zone. Like, so then when they're playing this, when other teams go zone against them is when like the worst of them comes out. So then it's like Harden and Embiid are like, oh man, it's ISO time. And then that's when it like they slow down so much, and Harden's dribbling off his feet and clanking step backs, and Embiid is grifting for fouls. Like it gets, I don't know, and it like I've never seen a team so stifled by zone when they see zone so frequently. So that's a concern I have, that like it's gonna be an issue. I don't know.
So I know I could totally see that, and I think they're gonna need a couple big Tobias Harris catch and shoot threes in the corner games to really pick apart those zones. But for me, if I was going to say why I'd be a little bit concerned about the Sixers in the playoffs, despite picking them to make the NBA Finals at the beginning of the season, it would be because their two best players are two of the least clutch NBA stars in the playoffs that we have in the NBA. Embiid has hit some big shots, for example, against the Raptors last year, but he is a serial underperformer in the playoffs, and we don't need to touch on Harden. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I am saying that if I was going to be skeptical, that is the first thing I'm looking at.
Yeah, look, that's fair. I mean, everybody who follows the NBA knows that Embiid and Harden, both on the same team, are probably the two guys in the NBA with like the most approved of like all like star players on contending teams. And they both do like 100%. For me, I have a couple other concerns, because as a true Sixers guy, I have to hate myself a little bit. A couple other concerns. Number one, I gave you number one. Number two, man, like every year it's like, again, Groundhog's Day. The backup center issue is an issue. Like this backup center is a huge issue. Like, I'm okay. For those who are listening, Kevin played Division III basketball. I would bet my house that you can get a bucket on Montrezl Harrell. Like, I would bet my house on it. Like, if you were one-on-one against Montrezl Harrell, like, you can 100% get a bucket. No doubt in my mind. He's terrible, Kevin. I can't do any more Montrezl Harrell. Like, I can't do it. I can't do it. He's so bad.
Are you back on the why is Doc not playing Paul Reed?
But here's the thing. Paul Reed might also suck. Like, I think Paul Reed messes their shit up. Like, I think there's a reason Doc hates him.
This is showing a lot of growth, by the way.
I think Paul Reed's a better option than Montrezl Harrell. I will make that known to the podcast right now. Paul Reed's a better option than Harrell, but I think Reed also, like, I think he messes up their sets somehow. I think he's just like, I don't think he like knows plays, basically. I don't know. I think he messes their shit up. You know, look, a backup center's gonna have their flaws in some way. That's the reason they're backups. That's why they don't start in the NBA. But like, you can't be a total zero. You can't be a -10 in 5 minutes. Like, Montrezl Harrell's not an NBA player. Paul Reed's kind of an NBA player, but like, I think it's going to be an issue. And you know, maybe I don't know what they're going to do with the deadline. I don't know what they'll do with buyouts, but you just can't go in the playoffs with Montrezl Harrell as your backup center. He's 6'7", Kevin, and he can't jump. He's 6'7", and he can't jump.
Which is crazy because, again, and this is yet another well-documented point on this podcast. He could jump when he played for the Wizards. He was not a bad defender on the Wizards. And he just it's like he had his powers stolen from him by the Monstars. It's very bizarre.
Yeah. His favorite thing in the world is wide open dunks. He could do that. I don't know. He is able to dunk without jumping. I'm still like, I don't know how he does it, but he does do that.
He does have freakishly long arms.
Okay, that might be it.
Like, really ridiculously long.
A couple other things that make me like, I don't know. Their defensive rating is fine right now. And I sometimes, you know, this is like an idea in my head. I wonder if this is just like me watching them every night and except not like, and being overly critical despite the fact that it's a long NBA season and guys aren't at 100% at all times, but sometimes defensively, like, they are just not trying. Like, you know, what is their defensive rating right now is 111, which in theory is pretty good, but like, I want to say this is mostly just like, you know, it's Wednesday night or late January against Orlando. Like, sometimes it's just, there's no defensive effort. And this happens throughout the whole NBA. I mean, guys are scoring at an historic rate. I think it's a fatigue thing. I don't want to be super critical of this, but defensively, sometimes I'm like, man, you guys are half asleep.
Yeah, I will say they rank top 10 in offensive rating and defensive rating. They're number 6 in defensive rating. That does not mean that they do not fall asleep at the wheel. But they do seem to be a pretty well-rounded team, all things considered.
The last thing that bothers me about them, and all of this being said with me still thinking I still think they can like make a legitimate run, but they're just like, they are so bad. They're a truly terrible rebounding team. And I think second chance points kill you in the playoffs. Like, there's going to be a lot. I mean, there's a reason they're a bad rebounding team. Like, they're short and fat, and they're going to, you know, like, long athletic guys in the playoffs grabbing offensive boards. Like, I feel like every time in the playoffs, someone gets an offensive board and kicks it out for a 3. It's like, that's like the players shoot that at like 100%, and it just kills you. So rebounding is going to be an issue too, that they got to try to, you know, get their fat butts moving, because second chance points in the playoffs are just brutal. But look, man, I hate them less. I think that they can make a run. Embiid has to be healthy. Harden has to be healthy, and then they gotta not suck. That's it.
At the end of the day, our Sixers to the finals pick does not look bad.
No.
They have a, like, if they finished the season as the number one team in the East, I would not be shocked. I still think it's going to be Boston. But if the Sixers went on another run and really took over, I would not be shocked at all. I don't think our Clippers pick is looking too hot, but who
Yeah,
knows?
no. We don't gotta do the Clippers thing
Um,
today, but that doesn't look good.
yeah. Um,
I believe a little bit though, Kev. I believe a little bit.
and I think you should. I think what they've shown in the last month, they're 12-3, by the way, in January. Best team in the NBA in the month of January. That's something. That's something. You can't ignore that. So we'll just see, I guess, can they get anyone by the trade deadline? Who is even going to be a buyout candidate that they could potentially pick up? I haven't really sunk my teeth into who the potential buyout guys are. But
There's
the
not a lot of
Sixers are in
them.
a pretty solid place.
I think, yeah, and I think the team, they're not gonna do much. I could see them maybe trading Thibault. That's probably the only guy I could see them moving.
I would give you, or you don't have any picks. I don't know if I want to. I don't want. I was gonna say there maybe there's some Gafford Matisse trade out there.
I would
But
do that.
I would like some sort of pick involved, because I think even Gafford with his flaws is probably better than this current version of Matisse.
Hey,
So
Matisse has
also,
offensively been more. Normally he's historically bad offensively, but he's actually looked a little bit more comfortable on the offensive end. So
I have not sold my Matisse stock. I like Matisse. I would like him on my Wizards. The only issue is if we trade Gafford, our front court would be Kristaps, and like the number two center would be Taj Gibson, and then Anthony Gill, and that's just a recipe for disaster. Which, hey, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what we need to finally lose. Just give up all of our depth.
All right, let's move on. I want to end with a mailbag that is related to the MVP race. This email comes from a good friend of the pod, Vegas Andrew. One moment. When we last spoke at the beginning of the season, I did not even mention Nikola Jokic as a possible MVP winner, and now he is a prohibitive favorite for the award. I do not share Joe's passion and homerism towards the 76ers, but I must admit that I do have an irrational dislike of Jokic's MVP candidacy each year, as many Philadelphians do. However, my missing Jokic was less about personal animus and more about the simple fact that no NBA player has ever won 3 straight MVPs. Not Kareem, not Jordan, not LeBron. No, no one. If the basketball press, what's that?
Larry Bird did it.
If the basketball press would throw Chuck Barkley an MVP out of Jordan fatigue, you'd think they'd do the same for Jokic, right? Well, I guess not. The Nuggets are on absolute fire, and Jokic's MVP candidacy is legit. In my opinion, the only legit MVP of his 3, if it does in fact continue. But this is what I want to convey to your listeners. Fade Jokic. Do not fall for it. While the Nuggets might end up top 2 in the West, this pace is likely going to fall off, and I'm willing to ride the historical precedent of no one having 3 straight MVPs. Kevin is fact-checking that. I will continue banging the drum that Jason Tatum is valued for the award. If Jokic wins 3 straight MVP awards, I'll just throw my hands up and find to take a major L by betting against history. Trust the process is not just a Sixerism, it works for gambling too. Bet against history. Bet against Jokic. Signed, Vegas Andrew. What do you think about this, Kev?
Well, first off, I would like to say that extremely well-written email, Vegas Andrew. I mean, I really appreciate it. Did Larry Bird, Wilt Chamberlain, and Bill Russell win 3 straight MVPs? Of course. But that's beside the point. That's beside the point. My issue, I don't actually disagree. because I didn't think it was really going to be possible for Jokic to win MVP this year. The issue is this is his best season in the NBA. And the real thing that bothers me is not that he's going to win this year. It's that he won last year. Last year, it should have been Giannis.
No, it should have been Embiid, but whatever.
I'm just saying, I think it should have been Giannis last year. I was saying that the whole time. I'm consistent with my, you got to be a good team. And sure, he took a bunch of scrubs and dragged them to the playoffs, and it was impressive, just like Westbrook did in 2017. I'm sorry, I don't care. I value team success a little bit, and that's why I think it should have been Giannis. And if it was Giannis, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. But he does make a point where it's pretty hallowed ground to be a 3-time in a row MVP winner. And let's be real, they didn't want to give Giannis his 3rd straight MVP. He wasn't even considered because he won 2 in a row and hadn't had any playoff success. And that's exactly what's happening with Jokic. The unfortunate thing, though, again, this is probably his best season so far. I mean, they're the 2nd best team in the NBA, and he's having his best statistical performance of all time. I mean, hell, 20-point triple-double on 70% true shooting is unfathomable. But it bothers me still.
I am starting a anyone but Jokic campaign for MVP. Sixers fans for Tatum, Sixers fans for Giannis, Sixers fans for Luka, obviously Sixers fans for Embiid. You can't do it. You can't give this guy 3 straight MVPs. I'm tired of it. Like, I'm so tired. I don't get it. And you know what? Like, the award is about narrative. And the narrative is no one, like, he's not a player who should get 3 straight MVPs. Like, it's not best statistical player. Like, it's not player with most points, assists, rebounds, whatever. Like, it's purposefully vague. Most valuable player is purposefully vague. Like, what does that mean? I don't know. Like, I don't understand the media, just the NBA media. I think, look, people in Philadelphia get butthurt about Jokic, but like, I feel like other people have to as well, because the media love for Jokic is unlike anything we've seen for any other player in our generation. And our generation has seen some pretty incredible players. I mean, LeBron, Kevin Durant, like, I don't know where it comes from. Like, is it the Excel sheets, Kevin? I don't know.
I think it's a few things. I think one, and it has to be mentioned, he's a fat white guy. Like, it is very much like, oh, I played with that guy at the Y. Like, people without question enjoy that. 2, he's a center that averages 10 assists a game, which is just extremely fun to watch. He's one of the most fun to watch players in NBA history, despite having very little, norm, like what you would consider athleticism. He's obviously very strong. He has a little bit of quickness, not necessarily with his feet, but in some other areas, extremely coordinated, but he's not athletic. That's not how you're describing him. But then also there's the statistical argument. I mean, so again, they're the 2nd best team in the NBA. How many points better do you think the Nuggets are with Jokic on the court versus off the court?
You could do this with any team's best player. You could do this with Embiid.
You can do it, but it doesn't reach the level. I will tell you.
Compare him with Embiid and him this year.
What'd you say?
Compare whatever this number is with what Embiid is or what Giannis is.
Okay. I will say Embiid is 11. Excuse me. The Sixers are 11 points better per game when Embiid is on the floor. 11 points per 100 possessions.
Okay.
The Bucks, this year it's a little bit down, 5.6 points per game. When Giannis won his last MVP, it was 13.6. And everyone was like, oh my God, 13.6. That's insane. That's so many. Jokic this season on the 2nd best team in the NBA, 23.4 points per game better with Jokic on the floor. Now, some of that is DeAndre Jordan is their backup center. That can't
They
help.
have the worst player in the NBA as his backup.
But as we touched on, is DeAndre Jordan worse than Montrezl Harrell is currently?
Actually, probably not. No.
It's at least the conversation. And the fact that Jokic is still that much higher just shows how much quote unquote value he brings. I'm not choosing him as my best player in the NBA. If I was going to rank my top 10, I'm still going Giannis, even with this down season. But it is undeniable the effect he has on this Nuggets squad.
Yeah, but you can't give him 3 straight MVPs. I don't care. You just can't.
I don't disagree with that. I think he still is going to, but what I will say is Bill Simmons on his most recent pod says that, and I quote, and Embiid took the MVP race by the balls. And as we know, Bill Simmons really generates a lot of discussion and kind of generates that narrative with a lot of these award races. For example, he spoke Marcus Smart winning Defensive Player of the Year into existence, even though Smart wasn't even the best defensive player on his team. But again, that's beside the point. So the writing is on the wall for Embiid to come in and take it. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Sixers fans for anyone. That's my new campaign. Anyone but Jokic. It's like I just can't do it. Yeah, look, I don't know. There is a unique Jokic love that just drives me nuts. And I don't know. Look, he got clamped by PJ Tucker, who has a dead hand. Like, it's 40. So I don't know if anybody saw that, but that was awesome, by the way. Like, PJ Tucker just absolutely wreaked havoc against Jokic in that Sixers Nuggets game. Just so much fun. And then Embiid played so well. I don't want to sound like a pathetic loser, like bragging about a regular season win, so I don't want to keep going.
Okay. We can end that discussion there. But Yams, do you have any last comments before we take off?
No, Sixers got a tough schedule remaining, so hardest schedule in the NBA remaining from here on out. So it'll be a tough last, 30 games left or something. So it'll be a good stretch for them. Go Birds. I would love for the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. So you know what? I'm worried about it cursing the Sixers, but I'm gonna revel in it. So go Birds.
You know what? Again, I'm supporting the Eagles here. But if the Eagles winning means the Sixers definitely lose, then I'm all in. So go Birds.
That's right.
Excuse me. Well, with that, that brings us to another close of an episode of The Driving Kick. Tune in next week to see what we discuss.
Go Birds.
Take care, everyone.